Kia ora, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, you are good, Jen.
Amazing. You are currently joining me from my really well-lit hallway in Wellington. You can see the lighting's great and I'm loving this, whatever's happening. So when Ryan put out the theme about insecure, immediately what came up for me was an opportunity to share with a broader audience like some more vulnerable stories about what it's like to be a founder and some of the things along the way that I've learned about how our brain can really sabotage us or really, be our best friend and hopefully save some pain, because there's been a lot of different experiences along my journey as a founder, and especially as a young coach. When I first started coaching, I was about 24, I think. And I hope that my little stories can help, because I'm very open to speaking vulnerably and sharing authentically. So I hope that this helps. And please put questions in the chat. I'm very open to answering questions. At a high level, Kia ora, I'm the founder of Intentional Generations, as well as Gen Y Insights. And the fancy little pitch thing is I help people and organizations to make change and impact in their lives, workplaces, and in the world that's sustainable without burning out. So that's the fancy schmancy pitch. But I do a lot more than that. That's super high level. So Ryan, please give me like the "Hey Jen" clap when I'm getting to like the 5-minute mark. So I thought I'd share 3 examples of what I've learned about insecurity, about how our brain is wired to keep us safe and not make us happy. So the first is that, and I've got them like written down little post-its so that I don't forget. So the first is that our brain can take one bit of evidence or a negative comment or opinion and create a whole story in our minds, or even worse, make that one opinion or that one story or comment into a part of our identity. And for example, when I left law, I was working in leadership development. This was way back in 2014, 2015. And my colleagues at the time said, I shared my dreams of wanting to help different organizations and do coaching, facilitating, speaking, writing, all that kind of fun stuff, and especially support the mental health and emotional health development in different communities around the country and worldwide. And my colleagues said, there are no young coaches. You need at least 5 to 10 years working experience, new qualifications like a degree in psychology or like a mental health degree or certificate or something, and no one's going to pay you for being a young coach. Like, no one's going to respect you. So at that time, I was working with different chief executives and senior leaders and had this dream of, bringing leadership development, basically open sourcing it, making it more affordable for younger generations and teaching the stuff that was being taught to senior leaders to different generations. And those comments, I didn't realize how much they hit hard. Maybe they got into my subconscious or something, but in essence, because I didn't see any other younger coaches, it meant that I didn't really believe it. So it meant that I didn't believe it was possible. So it took a bit of work and doing the hard mahi to actually see that, there are spaces for making a dream a reality, even though there's not much evidence that there's a space for this, or there's not much evidence that there are other people doing this. I can fill that space, or I can create this space. So the message there is, if you have this dream or this vision and it's not there currently, don't always give huge weight to what others tell you about what they believe, because that's their opinion. So those colleagues, when I was working in leadership development, they were in their late 30s, 40s, really set into their careers, very like old-fashioned ways of thinking, and they poo-pooed my dreams, in essence. And if I'd really held on to their opinions for even longer, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today. So please take that to heart. I hope that that's helpful. And the second one is that our brain focuses on threats or negatives to keep us safe. So, really thank our brain for doing its purpose, and it's basically got a really loving purpose at heart. So I think a really key thing is when we do something creative, or we put ourselves out there, or we're a founder, an entrepreneur, or whatever it is, we're out in the public eye. And there are always going to be criticism. There's always going to be people that will point out, like, you know, a typo or a design flaw, or they won't agree with what you're doing, or they'll give a different opinion. Our brain will focus upon that one negative bit of criticism, and maybe there's like 99 other bits of positive feedback. So know that that's normal. And what we can do in those situations is really think, so what are the opinions that really matter to us? Are we going to allow that one bit of criticism or harsh feedback to really define what we're doing, or to throw us down, or to, you know, like, just make us feel a bit shitty? Sorry, I can swear on this, can't I? I've got very low filter, and it's very early in the morning. So really, we get to choose what we focus on. Do we focus on the 99 bits of positive feedback that's really encouraging us to keep going and encouraging us to give it a try? Or do we focus on that one bit of negative feedback from someone that possibly is projecting their own insecurities, or they don't believe that they can do it themselves, and so they find it easier to put someone else down? And, you know, in New Zealand, we've also got this thing called the tall poppy syndrome, where it's not really celebrated to succeed, or it's not really, yeah, does that resonate? It's still very early in the morning. I'm like doing my best to explain my thoughts and stuff. So please type in the comments if that resonates. I think a quote that Brene Brown quotes a lot from Teddy Roosevelt is about how people that are in the arena, they're doing the work, they're doing the mahi, they are out there giving it a shot, and there are always going to be critics that, like, put down the people that are out of the arena. So if you are doing something creative, or you're doing something that's different, or you're wanting to do something that's different or creative or entrepreneurial or something, give it a shot. And also know that those comments, they likely will come, and you have the internal capacity and capabilities to really withhold that. And a really useful exercise on that could be, Brene Brown also, I love her, she talks about, like, writing on a post-it note. It could be like that size or something. Write down, like, the names of 5 people that actually their opinions really matter to you. You know, the ones that you will actually really listen to, and everyone else, nah, doesn't really matter that much. I think the third one, and it very much relates to insecurity, I think, in this digital age and social media age, is another Teddy or Theodore Roosevelt quote is, comparison is the thief of joy. So a lot of people can see founders and entrepreneurs and creatives who are doing a lot of stuff online and see, you know, the highlights reel of what's going on. And it's very common that we're often looking at other people's highlights reel when we are, let's say, like, we're on the couch, we're in our bed, or no judgment to you, if, like, you know, you're on the toilet and you're, like, scrolling through the gram, and we're not having the highlights reel version of our lives. You know, it's the more mundane version. And so it's natural to have those moments and really experience moments of insecurity. And I think in those moments, it's really important to be aware that mundane versus, like, the highlights reel. So that's something about the brain. I thought to finish, I'd share a quote that I wrote in a magazine article a while ago. And it's from this amazing American founder who, in a longer story, actually, after I wrote the article, reached out to me and loved the article and is now one of my mentors. But, you know, that's another story. Toby Thomas, he was the chief executive of an Inc. 500 company, On-Site Solutions. He explains the phenomenon of, from a distance, being your own boss or being a creative or being an entrepreneur looks amazing. So, you know, like the freedom of remote working, it's like hashtag beach life, hashtag best day ever, hashtag working from home, all that kind of stuff. He says his favorite analogy is of a man riding a lion. So people look at him and think, this guy's really got it together. He's brave. And the man riding the lion is thinking, how the hell did I get on the line, and how do I keep from getting eaten? So I think that really explains the the notion of being a creative or an entrepreneur or a freelancer or founder in a really interesting way that people look at from the outside and think, wow, that looks amazing. And, you've got all this freedom and stuff. And the reality sometimes is that we're just doing the best that we can. And that sometimes it can be really hard and we can feel a bit insecure. And that's totally natural because we're humans. And I think COVID, if anything, has illuminated just how insecure and uncertain lives currently really are. Yeah. So if any of this resonates, please leave me a comment or question, blah, blah, blah. I feel like I'm like talking to Instagram or YouTube being like, leave me a comment down below. But yeah, cool. I hope that resonates.
Thank you, Jen.
Me.
That was amazing. Wow. Okay. I think there's a lot to unpack there. And
oh wow, there's like lots of stuff in the chat.
Yeah.
Oh, beautiful.
And I'm mindful of time, so I'm going to bring that conversation into another discussion. But please reach out to Jen. Do you have a way we can get in touch with you if anyone wants to pick your brain or just have a coffee?
Yeah, absolutely. I can put in my email address into the chat, website, or socials, all that kind of stuff. I'm very happy to chat or help, whatever it looks like. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Jen.
I think I might have chatted too long. I got really excited and I was like, 3 points, nailed it.
No, fantastic. Thank you so much for coming. Okay.
Oh, good. Thanks.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. I'm not actually in bed, but I do have a blanket because it's freezing. I'm actually in Mangakino, which is near Taupo and Tokoroa at the moment, rather than Auckland, because I'm a little bit all over the place at the moment around the North Island. And I'm just going to share my screen if I can. Voila. Okay, so my name is Becky Moss and I work as a photographer. I started working as a paid photographer when I was 14. I don't know who let 14 and 15-year-olds photograph their wedding, but someone did. And since then, I have dabbled in the areas of fashion and editorial, photojournalism, real estate, all those different things. But my real passion is portraiture and also advocacy around chronic illness and other often unseen issues. So a little bit about me. I have a variety of chronic illnesses, chronic kidney disease. I've got now heart problems, endometriosis, and the long-standing fight with depression. So for me, insecurities come along with being someone that's invisibly chronically ill, but also I feel like it gives me, using my photography, it gives me a platform to talk more openly about this stuff, to make it feel a little bit more okay for other people who are in my position, because I didn't have that growing up. So yeah, portraiture is the main thing I just absolutely love. I love connecting with people. I love meeting people. And I really try to get to know a person at least a little bit before I even pick up my camera. It feels a bit weird to just go in there with a camera and suddenly take photos of people. It feels a little bit wrong. So I do spend a lot of time talking to people and meeting them and things before I take their photo. So when my friend Erica actually referred me through for this and I saw the theme was insecurity, the first thing I thought of was not just being a young female photographer who's been in the industry for a decade and having to deal with a lot of, not so much adversary from online, but there's definitely the comments in person at events from older photographers or people who don't think I am capable of being the official photographer there because I do look young and I often only use one small lens on my camera, so I don't look professional enough. But my big insecurity actually came this year after my first public exhibition. And very briefly, this is just a list of various clients and things like that. And I've had a privilege of working with a lot of different people in the last few years, which has been wonderful. So as Laura said earlier this year during Pride, I had the opportunity to showcase in collaboration with the Auckland Council a series of portraits that I'd been taking at Queer as Fuck events, excuse the language, that's the actual name, at Basement Theatre in 2019. And nightlife photography is not something I had been comfortable with. I was quite insecure about even just bringing out and using a flash, mainly because I'd worked in natural light beforehand. But this was a big learning step for me, and also a way of connecting with the community that I was still learning to be a part of. And so I was very lucky to have these exhibited, and very publicly and very large. And it was incredible. The feedback was incredible, and getting to meet people that had been influenced or touched by the photos was really moving for me, but it brought a lot of insecurity on. I would say that sometimes I would be the queen of imposter syndrome. After the opening night and Pride weekend, I just completely fell apart. I was like, I'm quitting photography. I cannot do it. I don't deserve this. I've been like, absolutely not. So that was, interestingly, a big insecurity for me. It is often hard to see your photos quite big and large and recognized after years and years of trying to get them that way. And when it finally happened, it just seemed so overwhelming. However, vulnerability and speaking openly about vulnerability is something I'm really passionate about. So this was something I talked about publicly on social media, was the fact that it is overwhelming having imposter syndrome and receiving praise for your work. Sorry. And yeah, I was lucky to be able to share that with other creatives. So I'm continuing to work on that project, and also at the moment, as my mental and physical health hasn't been that great recently, I'm also slowly working again on some longer stories. This was taken during lockdown at my flat in Auckland, but also working again in portraiture and connecting with people, but also telling stories of invisible chronic illnesses, masculinity in the 21st century in this incredible country, Aotearoa, New Zealand, and also looking at the relationship between rural and urban areas as we lead up to the election. Yeah, I think that covers it. My work can be found online generally. If you just Google my name, it comes up because of the way that Becky is spelt. Otherwise, that's me, and a little bit about vulnerability and insecurity from someone with imposter syndrome.
Thank you, Becky. That's amazing. Wow. My question was what was on your horizon, but apparently a lot is on your horizon. That is awesome, and I can't wait to see way more of this stuff. Like Laura, now I know the names of the pictures, and it helps a lot. We have one question. It's quite a niche one. From Rebecca, did you photograph Sabrina and Jay's wedding this year?
Yes, I did. I was very lucky to. Yeah.
Awesome.
Absolutely beautiful wedding.
Oh, fantastic. I'm sure that's definitely makes sense to the people who were there too. But yeah, we loved your shots, and we'll definitely have to get in touch again about more stuff. Before we jump on to the next one, do you have any socials other than your one you've just shared you want out there? Anything else? Where can they get in touch with you?
Just through Instagram is Becky Moss _ at the end. And I just saw a question come up.
Yep, get that.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, feel free to message me, or through other contact details are found through my website, which is just beckymoss.co.nz. And yeah, this is something I like to talk about openly, insecurities, vulnerability, especially working as a creative. So if you want to get in touch and talk more, then feel free.
Right. Nice. Can you hear me all right?
Yep, you're good.
Nice. You almost got everything right there, Ryan, but PwC is not an engineering company. That was Fraser was part of PwC, and then I was in some other engineering, similar organizations. But awesome, thank you. Yeah, thanks so much for inviting me to speak. Really loved hearing already from Jen and Becky. I think you both had some awesome kōrero to share there, so I really appreciate you guys opening up and sharing your journeys. I'll just share my screen and we can jump into things. Boom. Cool. So this is a photo from taken from one of our classrooms that was participating in one of our previous education programs. So as Ryan mentioned, Squad is a digital education provider. We focus on big environmental issues and bringing them into New Zealand classrooms, and how can kids localize those and be empowered to act on those. So it's a really exciting space to be in. We've got a new program about to launch next month, which is our next stage in this journey. And I thought what I'd do today is just share a little bit about my journey, how I got involved with Squad, and some of the thoughts and feelings around there. So I grew up in Canterbury, South Island. Had a pretty typical Kiwi childhood. Spent a lot of time outside. And that's, I think, where my love for the environment began and grew. And then ended up going to Canterbury University and studied civil engineering. And that was the first time, I guess that's the first time after high school that you had to start making decisions for yourself. Up till then, it's quite a prescribed journey. And I found the longer I went through, especially into, let's say, my third year of uni there, I was really questioning why I was studying engineering, because I couldn't easily see an outlet for the things that I was learning. I wasn't particularly interested in what I was learning. And just as one example of kind of this constant battle in my head of, am I putting my efforts towards something that I care about? Is this leading towards something that I'm wanting to do in the long term? Was in my second semester in third year, where I swapped degrees, I think 5 times I went from civil engineering to natural resources engineering, which is kind of similar. But then I jumped to mechanical engineering, which involved dropping back a whole year. And I stuck with that for like 6 weeks before jumping back right before the end of semester exams back into my original civil engineering degree. And I must have swapped once more actually as well between natural resource and civil. So my point is that I was jumping around and my head was in a complete turmoil. I couldn't sleep at night. As soon as I'd wake up in the morning, I'd have maybe like 5 seconds of like peace almost before I suddenly like had this incredible feeling of insecurity, not knowing if I'd made the right decision about what degree I was taking. And in the end, basically jumped back into civil and crammed really hard and may have copied a few assignments from some friends and got through that semester. And then from then on I decided to go with it. Not particularly because I found it particularly interesting. There were parts that I really liked, things that related to the environment, for instance, but I decided just to complete it, and came out of university and was thinking, cool, here's a chance now I can jump into some jobs and actually apply my knowledge, and maybe that will make me feel a bit better about what I'm doing. But again, I jumped into my first graduate job and immediately just was like, oh, what am I doing here? And this was again, something that was recurring over the next 2 years, where I dropped that first graduate job after a year, jumped into another one, had periods, obviously there's moments that I enjoyed and really appreciated and grateful for, but overwhelmingly I was thinking, I'm more creative than what this job is allowing me to be, and was looking for other outlets. So one of those outlets, for instance, was selling potatoes, hot potatoes at a gourmet night market in Tauranga. That was good fun. But then was lucky enough to jump into Squad basically 2 years ago, and that was through knowing the co-founders, like Fraser and McConnell and Alex McCall and Alex Hannon. And I was just going to show a quick. Oh, that's not working. How do I go to the side? Sorry, this is no good. might just do it like this. Here's a photo of our team that ran the Kickstarter recently. And just wanted to show this team, and we've had a few incredible additions recently that I'll mention in a moment. But it's really these guys that have, and Siobhan, that have really empowered me to be, the best that I can be and chase passion and go from, someone that was clock watching all the time at work, in my previous jobs, thinking, can't wait for the day to be over so then I can go and actually, research what I'm really interested in, which is, something about the environment or social movement, to, now there's almost not enough time in a day where it's, it's kind of like the opposite. So I just want to say a big credit to those people, because it's definitely not a journey you do alone. It's a journey that you are helped along the way with and inspired by others. And the next slide, let's hope this comes up. Yes. So here's one of our most recent additions to Squawk Squad, who also happens to be the host for today. And he's come on as a web designer, and he's doing incredible mahi for our education program that we're going to launch next month. And this is Ryan pretending to be a New Zealand native bird. It's oh wait, I need to get the sound. Okay, 1 second. We practice this in the tech check, and I've messed it up. Let's see if this works. Woot 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 woot. Cool. So there you go. Short and sweet. You like that, Ryan? Cool. Oh, sweet. Cool. And then I can finish now, but this is just a picture, for instance, from our winning classroom from 2019. That's me in the front there with the kids that we visited, as they were the winners for the nationwide program. This is our little Kiwi mascot, with one of the kids getting very hot inside there. But it's just an example of some of the positives that can come from I think looking to find your passion, and I think feeling insecure about what you're doing is not always a bad thing. It might just be a bit of a wake-up call, or will motivate you to hopefully look for something that you really are passionate about, because I think that's what the world needs more of, is people that are really into what they're doing, because it's just it's, I don't know if productive is the right word, but it's like just to encourage you to keep looking for that. And I think things like Creative Mornings are perfect opportunities to begin that journey. Cheers.
Awesome. Thanks, Owen.
Awesome. Kia ora tātou katoa. Kolat Miles taku ingoa. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. I just want to take a moment to celebrate the bravery of the speakers before me. I'm just left quite humbled and inspired. Jennifer, Becky, Owen. Wow, I took so much from that, and I feel kind of embarrassed, really, because I should be giving more. I would like to, I guess, just sort of touch on a couple of things that I think might be useful. First off, I have a bit of a mission in life. I think that, thanks, Jennifer. I think that the future that we're facing at the moment, the future that we're pointing at, is not necessarily the one that we really, really want. And I'm on a bit of a mission to try and help us point to a better future, and one that doesn't suck. I have kids, and I know a lot of us do, and we're facing into a lot of uncertainty around that. But I think with that knowledge, we can do something about it. So my personal mission is to build beautiful businesses, and that means 4 Ps. Purposeful, impactful, kind to people, planet, and they generate prosperity for the people inside their system and for the communities around them. So on this kind of mad mission, joined a partnership recently called Collectively. That is 14,000 odd business owners from across Aotearoa, and our goal is really to support growth. And that's my hidden agenda. It's not so hidden, really. Is to try and steer it towards more beautiful businesses, that becomes more common than not. That you walk past a museum in 10 years' time and you look at, wow, I can't believe we used to do business that way, where people had to clock watch. Am I right? All that kind of stuff. It's actually, people are kind of far more joyful in the way that they conduct themselves, and we end up with a better society and a whole bunch of things. So I'm kind of a big dreamer, and I put a lot of my energy into this sort of thing. When the team approached me from Creative Mornings to share a little bit about insecurities, it hit a hot button for me. I'm actually carrying a little bit of emotion in the background. So just thinking about some of the moments that that forged and formed my belief system and kind of brought me to where you are now, but how it kind of started for me. And I just wanted to touch on that because it'll help shape the pro tips I want to give you. And it really does kind of connect strongly to what Jennifer was saying about how our brains are hardwired to keep ourselves safe. And not necessarily naturally hardwired to help us be happy. And so my personal childhood, I was born and raised in sub-Saharan Africa. I attended 27 different schools by the time I was 17, and that covered 5 different countries, sometimes in and out of war zones. So I had just this rich tapestry of experiences, but most of my schooling life just developed huge insecurities that I still deal with today. One of them was basically always feeling like the alien. You know, I'd be the kid, like very conservative, traditional schools, you know, Victorian format. Everyone's got a school uniform and it's classrooms and all that sort of. So you're kind of built for conformity in these environments. And I'd be the kid that turns up slightly overweight with a different uniform and, you know, and just kind of don't even speak the same language half the time. So just kind of having that sort of wash over. It puts you into a different domain. I really struggled. I was painfully shy, and most people would not recognize me or know. Like, there's a massive transformation that sort of happened. I don't feel like I'm the same person now, but just tapping into that sort of start in life sort of sets you off on an inquiry. So I think I became a bit of a student. Half a lifetime later, most of you have your lives ahead of you. Well, I'm kind of looking back on half a lifetime later. And I learned a few things and I really wanted to share them with you today. And I think building on some of the concepts that you heard from Owen, Becky and Jennifer today, your brain plays tricks on you. It's hardwired in a certain way. I'm actually going to dump my notes here for those of you who can't stay. There. And the first part is really know thyself. Just kind of get to know your own kind of brain system. And it's surprising how much we have in common, but we don't believe it. We kind of live in our own little reality, and our eyes are both projectors and receivers, you know, so our reality is forged in a very strange way, and it has weird effects on us. So the first one is worrying. The act of worrying, I realized really early, because we used to worry a lot. You know, my family used to worry about money and, you know, what's our next experience going to be like, and we'd have to move and, you know, for various reasons. And so I realized that worrying was a complete energy suck. It just became such a waste of energy. The act of worrying is imagining the worst possible outcome and then experiencing all the emotions that go with it. You know, just kind of notice for yourself that that's just carrying around a lot of baggage. That's just consumes so much energy that steals from being in the moment, from being wise in the moment. So worrying, know that your brain just loves worrying, loves imagining outcomes, but then making you experience all the emotions that go with it. Number 2 was that we're hardwired, this is back to Jenny's point, hardwired to experience more emotional impact from losing something than we are from gaining something. So we experience more, it has a much more powerful effect on our psyche, the prospect of losing something rather than the prospect of gaining something. So almost twice the economics are quite around that. So just know that about yourself. And number 3, I think this probably connects, I hope, as a general rule, is you tend to get more of what you focus on. All right, so careful what you focus on. So those are sort of 3 things to just help you know yourself. And I think with that knowledge, I'll leave you with 3 pro tips, and they're listed in the chat box, and I'll open it up to things. But I think these are 3 strategies I wanted to offer you that seem to work quite well for me. One of them is that notice that you have the ability to choose your stance. That when you're confronted with a situation, just notice that you can choose your stance. A lot like skiing. If anyone's been skiing, when you lean away from the slope, all right, your brain's screaming. If this first time you strapped some of those planks on your legs and kind of confronted with the scenario, you know, if you're leaning away from the slope, you tend to lose control and things go wrong. But the counterintuitive thing sometimes is to counteract some of your psychology, and lean in. When you lean in, you tend to gain more control. And the same thing happens with difficult situations that you find yourself in, is leaning in tends to give you better outcomes. So that's my first pro tip to give you. I think it was Freud that once said, if you're not prepared to be the fool, you'll never do anything. You'll never bring anything unique and masterful into the world. So my second pro tip is really about being okay with being foolish. Just notice that actually I'm okay with being foolish at the start, at first, because I'm a fast learner. And that will help me break a seal and kind of get into a new domain. And then that helps me develop very quickly. And before you know it, the ones that were laughing at me are now working with me, because they can't believe that this is how cool it's turned out. You could see something that you didn't know. And then, of course, the final thing is we only really truly learn from reflection. This is just a kind of interesting thing. And one of the things I kind of developed as a strategy is, if you're going to go into an experience and you have it and you now have the benefit of hindsight, you can look behind you, take the benefit, harvest that hindsight. So often we walk into things that didn't quite go as we planned, and then treat it like a failure, and that damages us, and you kind of never look back. No, look back, face into that moment, and try to extract learnings. There's almost always learnings, something that you can take from that experience that you can build forward. So those would be my three pro tips. Is choose your stance, be okay with being a fool at first, and then develop on that. And of course, reflect on your experiences, inspect and adapt how you want to be. We're a process as humans. And so much of the changes that we want to see in the world, which is so super important, please help me un the world, starts with you. And I would encourage you as creatives, we need you more than ever to be the change you want to see in the world. Start with what's going on in your inner verse, and you will see the things around you change. Oh, thank you, Elaine. Thanks, everyone. I think I'll just kind of open it up. If you have a minute for questions, I don't mind taking a question, but I just thought I'd very quickly dump that before everyone has to cut and run. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Colin. Amazing. I'm sure everyone is clapping at home right now. That was a phenomenal way to wrap this event up. If there's any last minute questions, we've got one question right now, and I'll answer this one and then we'll finish this off, and otherwise just message you. But sorry if I pronounce this wrong. Alana, how do you prevent overthinking things? And she also loves your talk. So.
Thanks, Alana. Simple thing is, you'll never get to perfect. It's an illusion, and it's a trickster. So try to aim for good enough for now, I'd say. And for a lot of creatives, I know that there's a tendency to hold on to your work before you expose it to potential criticism or feedback. But my suggestion is develop up a muscle group in yourself that says, I actually just want to expose it early and often to get fast feedback, and that'll help me evolve this thing in the way that I want to. So overthinking it becomes something that's less likely for you. So start to move to quickly exposing, test and learn, to build into your amazing approach.